Hello, Wellness Warriors. So, I had a really interesting conversation last week with Daniel Trevor, and I want to just go through some of the ideas that came to me after that conversation. And I want you to, you can ask your questions, put them in the chat, and follow along with me as we kind of go through what came to me, because obviously I want us to improve our health. So, I'm going to dive into my thoughts. And like I said, put your comments and questions in the chat. So, my joints began hurting when I was 23 years old. And that's way too young to be battling arthritis. And I was not alone. Heart disease is showing up in people in their 30s. Diabetes is being diagnosed in people in their 20s. Colon cancer is now the leading cause of death in adults under 50. Like, people are going to the gym and people are reading the labels. We're doing all the things, right? And people are seeing their doctors regularly and doing exactly what the doctors are telling them to do, and still ending up in that hospital bed. Now, something about that picture just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And here's what makes it even more confusing. Most people are not sitting on the couch eating chips all day. They're not just not caring. They're trying. They're buying whole grain bread because the label says it's heart healthy. They're choosing the low fat yogurt because that's what we're being told to do. Like, get that fat out of the diet. Like, we shouldn't be eating all that. So we're doing it. They're ordering the salad even when they wanted something else. So by Friday night, after they've had their gym session, and then they have pizza, right? That just seems normal. Maybe on Sunday they have a burger. Again, normal. On Tuesday, guess what's happening? They can't stop thinking about how good a slice of chocolate cheesecake would be right now. And they blame themselves every single time because they've been told that it's a discipline problem, that if they just tried harder, wanted to be healthy more, or had more willpower, they'd be able to have one cookie and stop, right? They'd be good. But that isn't even close to being true, Wellness Warrior. Not at all. The whole grain bread and the pizza are doing the exact same thing in our body. One just kind of has this nice health halo from good marketing. But both raise blood sugar, both keep insulin elevated. And elevated insulin keeps us hungry. It keeps us craving. It keeps us going back for more. This isn't a weakness, it's biology. The problem is, companies have carefully crafted garbage to have the exact salt, sugar, fat combinations that override our body's ability, so that natural ability our body has to stop eating, to send us the signal that, hey, you had enough. So the truth is that you're not imagining being out of control when you eat processed foods. It's actually happening. The nutritional guides that were supposed to save us from overeating junk food are actually pushing us to overeat processed nonsense. We end up blaming ourselves for every stumble that we make. And I want to just back up here. How do they push us to eat the nonsense? Going back to that whole wheat bread versus pizza idea. The carbohydrates in an apple, the carbohydrates in broccoli, the carbohydrates in a cookie are all coming from the same place, plant matter. Carbohydrates are carbohydrates. So yes, those got food guidelines that are telling us to eat several servings of fruits, several servings of vegetables, several servings of grains and whatever, which they still do. We have these new food guidelines, but the food guidelines do not tell us not to eat those things. They've just shifted the list around a little bit, but they're still there. And they're still pushing us to overeat the nonsense, make mistakes, and blame ourselves, right? And the more we blame ourselves, the more money companies make. So this is evidence that the system is working exactly as it's designed to work. Like, this couldn't be more perfect, right? But I want us to understand that that system, it didn't build itself, right? Like, someone designed it, funded it, and someone profits every time we blame ourselves instead of looking at the system that we're trying to live within. When you know how a system works, you can manipulate things to get whatever result you want to get out of the system, right? So let's look at that a little bit more closely again. Millions of dollars have been spent on understanding how the human body works. That's another system, right? Because understand that there are so many connected and chemical things happening in your body. Yes, it's a system. One input leads to several outputs. It's a system. And right now we have an amazing understanding of how food impacts our health after years and years and years of research and loads of money, right? When food breaks down into its components, fat, carbohydrate, and protein, scientists know exactly which of these components we need for example, growth and repair, and which of these components will cause ill health. That's not a question anymore. Like fat, protein, carbohydrate, we know which ones are good, and we know which ones, when we eat them, let me just be clear about that. We know when we eat them, which ones are absolutely necessary and which ones are not. When we look at conditions like heart disease, diabetes, and colon cancer, they seem like different illnesses, right? So what causes problems in our body? It seems like these things are coming from different places. But the scientists actually know that they all have the same root. So we think because they look so different, they have to be coming from the scientists know. So let's go back to what we know now from all the research that we've done. When we eat processed food, they've been engineered to hit the bliss point, right? That exact salt, sugar, fat ratio that causes us to overeat them. So that's one piece of the puzzle. And we know that because of the research. They actually did research to figure out the bliss point. Because why? Because they want us to overeat their stuff. They want us to overeat the stuff. These things. So since these foods are high in sugar and seed oils, our body responds with insulin. Insulin's not the enemy. It's not the problem here. Insulin is actually doing exactly what it's designed to do in our body. Again, our body's a system. Sugar comes in, insulin rises, and a bunch of other chemical processes happen, and like that is absolutely normal. But when insulin is elevated constantly, meal after meal, day after day, year after year, the cells stop responding to it properly. That's what they're calling insulin resistance. Our cells are not, and the sugar comes in and our body's just overloaded with sugar and the cells are struggling. Insulin is still doing the right thing. And now we're dealing with a metabolic environment that's prone to chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, deteriorating gut lining. Basically, we are dealing with a really bad situation. It's a horrible time. It's not good at all. And that environment is the soil that feeds the roots of heart disease, colon cancer, and diabetes. Yeah, heart disease, diabetes, and colon cancer are all symptoms of the same damaged metabolic environment. All three of them, right, all three of them have been on the rise in our world, right? Especially in the Western world. Let me be very specific. All three conditions on the rise in our Western world over the past 3 decades, for sure. Minimally 3 decades. I probably guess it's more, but minimally, I'm gonna say that. And they're being noticed in younger and younger generations. I mean, it makes me so sad slash angry slash confused when you go to the children's hospital that is constantly full. I've had the unfortunate necessity to go to the children's hospitals here because one of my good friend's daughter, when she was in her teens, was in the hospital. And there's always a bunch of people there. I've had the unfortunate scenario of taking my daughter to the hospital on an occasion when she was less than 2 years old because she was limping. The waiting room was packed. We waited the entire night with a less than 2-year-old to see a doctor. And you're going back 18, nope, we're going back 19 and a half years ago-ish for that incident. That is how ridiculous the world, the children in the hospital situation is. Supposed to be the healthiest little people on the planet, right? They're impacting people who are actually eating clean and working out. These conditions are everywhere, right? And that's because the food that created the environment was the food that they were told was fine to eat, right? So we have both things happening. We are pushed to eat fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and legumes and grains and all this stuff, which is creating a hostile environment. But then we're told it's also okay to spoil yourself once in a while and have these things, right? And these things, chocolate, ooh, fun, creating a hostile environment. So something I want you to think about, young adults who develop colon cancer are on average biologically 15 years older than their actual age. So their cells are aging at an accelerated rate. That's not bad luck or even genetics. That's because of what they've been eating. So in that interview with Daniel Trevor, he talked about how he passed every cardiac test his doctor gave him. No problem, passed it. Clean bill of health. And then he had a heart attack. How does that make any sense that you do every test that they tell you to do and still turn around and have a heart attack? It doesn't make any sense. So when he found the doctors who knew what to look for, and thank goodness he lived through the heart attack to be able to find the doctors to know what to look for, when they did the looking, what they found was that he actually had 4 metabolic conditions that were completely missed by those great tests that the other doctors had run. Yeah, all missed. And all caused by the same dietary environment. His story is not unusual. It's just unusual how well it was documented, right? Because he documented it. And he put it out there for us to understand what's actually happening. He wanted to share that story the same way that I share my story about my hip pain. The same way that Lee from Kent Carnivore shares his story about his colon removal. And how old is he? He's young. He's if he's in his 30s, I'm surprised. The same reason that we are all, so everyone who's been in this scenario is talking about this scenario, because we want you to understand that there's something wrong here, right? Because if we need to understand, we absolutely need to understand the environment we are living in, Wellness Warrior. The research that was supposed to tell us what was causing our poor health kept pointing in a very specific direction. It's pointing at one thing, and it screams that that's the thing. But the problem is it's pointing away from the engineered food. It's not pointing at that. It's pointing towards something else entirely that makes no sense to every single person who got their health back. Doesn't make sense to us. The current system knows exactly how food impacts the body. And as a matter of fact, the current system has invested billions in understanding all the precise mechanisms that drive chronic disease. Like, they know it intimately. And yet, the research continues to label processed foods as safe for human consumption. No problem, right? Yeah, you can eat that in moderation. Yeah, sure, no problem. Research continually finds that red meat and saturated fat, two foods that humans have been eating for millions of years, somehow explain the rise of disease more than processed foods that have only recently been added to our diets. This is what we are meant to believe. This is what they're putting in front of us as explaining the scenario and makes more sense, and we need to double down on getting rid of those red meats. And Wellness Warrior, the organizations that shaped the nutritional guidelines telling us to limit red meat have documented financial relationships with the companies selling us the processed food driving the epidemic. The International Life Sciences Institute is one of the most influential bodies shaping the global nutritional policies and blah blah blahs. All the literature to telling us what we should be eating. Its members include Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Nestle, PepsiCo, Cargill, and Pfizer. The lead author behind key dietary recommendations did receive funding from that same international International Life Sciences Institute. That person received funding from them. Like, if we can't see the connection, we're just because we're not looking. And the same author also concluded that so those sugar guidelines were based on low quality evidence. Like the limit sugar thing, yeah, that's low quality evidence. The person telling us red meat causes disease and sugar guidelines are unreliable was being paid by the companies that profit from us believing both of those things. What I found fascinating is that populations that don't eat Western processed foods, like regardless of how much red meat they eat, if they don't eat Western processed foods, don't have these epidemics that we're living right now. The heart disease, diabetes, and early onset colon cancer are diseases of the Western diet, right? That's the soil creating the problems. They're not diseases of red meat. We need to understand that the research was never really about red meat. It was about protecting the products that were actually causing the damage and making sure that we keep buying the products that are actually causing the damage and that we blame ourselves, right? Because we're the ones that couldn't stop overeating them. We're the ones that we just take it too far, right? Instead of having one of these little mini size things that are, like we're going to eat a full size chocolate bar, or we're going to eat more than one chocolate bar. But guess what? This little teeny tiny thing is still actually damaging to the body. This little thing, because fructose, my liver is not expecting the amount of fructose that's in here because because bad for me, chemicals, right? They keep focusing our attention on managing rather than thriving, wellness warrior. That compulsion that we have to eat all the junk our eyes see is not a weakness. It's on purpose. They're creating that. They blame us for it, right? Despite engineering it. So, they engineer it through their understanding of our biology. And then when we eat their products, we respond to their products. Naming this accurately changes everything. If I understand what's happening and I name this correctly, I eat the thing, I react to the thing, I will want to eat more of the thing. Once we understand that their product is designed to trick our brain into overeating it, we know why we can't stop overeating it. And we stop yelling at ourselves. We stop saying, why am I so weak that everybody else can eat one cookie or have one scoop of ice cream or have one slice of pizza or have, right? Like all these things that seem fine and everybody else is doing, you know, how many people do you know that don't just have one apple or one piece of fruit a day? They'll have 4, 5, 6, 7, oh, fruit is okay. And then all of a sudden they're just on the fruit, on the fruit, on the fruit. The truth is, and this is something that I only learned when I really took my health seriously. This is something that only I could see it when I actually allowed myself to take the garbage out of my life. The truth is, food tastes good when you're hungry. But it's not at all interesting if you're not. And that's an amazing thing, Wellness Warrior. It's amazing because you're not daydreaming about what you're going to have next. I don't think about food until it's time to get food. And even when it's time to get food, I pretty much know what I'm going to eat, right? Because I know it's going to be a plate of some kind of meat, period, or fish, or poultry, or eggs, period. So the first thing we need to take note of is that processed garbage is not food. It's not. We need to stop calling these silly things that we can purchase, we need to stop calling them food. Even if they're well marketed and make us think that, like, oh, it's going to be the protein and this protein bar has, only 1 gram of sugar. Does it really? Does it only have 1 gram of sugar? No, there's 25 grams of carbohydrates in here. Sugar and carbohydrates are 2 words for the same thing. So on the front of the package, it's great marketing, but on the back of the package, 22 grams. That's, if you're keto, your entire day in 1 bar. Honest warrior. We need to not let them trick us. The next time that you feel hungry, what you need to do is ask if what you're about to eat is food or if it's processed garbage. Because if it's not food, don't eat it. We need to keep in mind that the reality of eating those processed stupidities has a huge impact on us. We're going to get the pleasure of eating them for that few seconds that they're in our mouth and we swallow it down. But immediately as we swallow it down, the guilt is there because we know that those things, first of all, are not good for us, right? Well, maybe if you're eating these kind of silly things with all the great marketing, you might think it's good for you, but it's not because it's still processed. I didn't check, but if this is an almond-based something, then let me just see, is this almond? Oh, at least it's a milk protein. Okay. But the ones that are almond based, anything that's flour based, and it will tell you that it has all the best of ingredients, and then it doesn't. So we have the guilt of knowing that these things are not healthy, but then we live with the weight gain that we're going to have, especially if we're eating this stuff, the weight gain, right? The pain, the health issues, and we're confused. And we want to be healthy. We're doing all this stuff. We're eating the stuff the doctor tells us to eat because we want to be healthy. But here's the thing. When you eat real food, our body regulates its hunger. That's, again, another amazing thing that I got out of this healthy lifestyle is that my body regulated its hunger. So it's truly so hard. It's it's truly so hard to overeat when you eat meat, fish, poultry, eggs with salt. Like, and that's not deprivation, by the way. It's satiation. Like, you actually stop eating because you've had enough. And I love my meals. You know, if I'm being honest, and I go back even to my standard American diet, standard Canadian diet days, the meat was always my favorite part of the meal. I remember as a kid saving it for last, struggling through the vegetables so that the last thing that I would have tasting in my mouth was the meat. Because I hated right? Like, and also because I had too much on my plate, but that's a whole other conversation. It feels amazing when you're satiated, when your body just naturally says, you don't need any more food. It feels amazing. And we can reclaim the biological function that these ridiculous companies have taken from us by eating real food. And when we do that, we're addressing the heart disease, diabetes, and colon cancer at the exact same time, because they are all born out of the metabolic damage, so that damaged environment that the garbage was causing, right? If I'm no longer eating garbage, my body can clean up the environment, and if it cleans up the environment, and I keep bringing in the healthy stuff, right, that is asking for meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and salt, now it has what it needs to build me. Now it has what it needs to repair me. Now it has what it needs to cleanly fuel me. Do you see how this changes everything? Change the environment, and the body can resume doing what it is designed to do. And now, when we walk into our doctor's office, we walk in with context that our doctor doesn't actually have, which can be tricky, right? Because I now have data that the person sitting across from me doesn't have. And that data is guiding what I'm doing and confusing the data. So the test results it's confusing the doctor because the doctor doesn't know what we're doing. So we understand what created the mess, right? That messed up metabolic environment. We know what created that environment. We possibly started already and changed our diet. You might be keto, you might be carnivore, and started cleaning stuff up. But then now we're faced with the doctor wondering, like, what's going on with you? Like, what's happening here, right? And not understanding. Wellness warrior. We understand why the guidelines pointed us towards the food that kept the problem ongoing. Because we're having conversations like these. I know I'm not the only person you're listening to. You're listening to Dr. Ekberg. He talks about this stuff a lot. You're listening to a lot of different people. Dr. Berg, you're listening to a lot of different people. They're telling you why this scenario is happening. And we understand that the conversation that we need to have is not what medication is going to manage this problem. I don't want to be on medication. The whole reason for changing my diet and focusing on my health and starting to move more and do more things. I actually work out now, which I never did consistently before. And it honestly is still the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning. This is since January, and I love it, right? I love the fact that food is not something that's on my mind. And I love the fact that I check with myself, is today a workout day? Because I work out every other day. So I check with myself, is today a workout day? Today's a workout day, by the way, if you're wondering. It's what food was created for, right? Like our body doesn't need medication. It needs the right food, because that's what food is supposed to do. It's supposed to help our body stay healthy. So what I want to know from my doctor is, what's the right, what's the right test that you should be checking, right? Like, I want to know from my doctor, since I'm eating the right foods now, how do we work together how do we move forward working together to make sure that my good actions continue to move forward? Because I'll tell you, wellness warrior, a lot of the time, by the time we go see our doctor and have been doing keto or carnivore, well, if you're carnivore, you've been doing keto hopefully before that, because I don't go straight to carnivore. That's not the thing to do. But been doing keto for years or months and then switch to carnivore, whatever you did. But by the time you get to carnivore even, how much have you already improved? Like, if your doctor sees all that improvement, but then is fussing about your diet, have the conversation. This is a very different conversation than the one the system prepared our doctor to have with us, right? But it's the right conversation. We want to stay on course. We want to continue to be healthy. And we need to have that conversation with the doctor and not get derailed because the doctor is scaring us off course. Now, once you've had that conversation and you get your doctor on board, we still need to live this, right? We need to stay on course. And sometimes that might actually feel hard. So even though I'm getting good results, even though my body's feeling better, even though I'm doing things with meat, I'm eating meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and I'm working out and I'm seeing results, sometimes it still feels hard, especially when the engineered food is everywhere, right? And our mindset might still have some of those old elements because it takes a long time to change the way you're thinking. It takes a long time for you to put down old ideas. And I've known people and talked to people in comments who have been keto and carnivore for years and still tracking calories, even though our body has no concept of calories. Calories is not a thing. So, we need to understand that some of these mindset things take a while to shift. So that could pull us off course. And also the people around us who are eating those things in front of us when their mindset is still struggling with it, or we still might be close to remembering what that thing tastes like, and not there's so many things that can trip us up. And the system is always trying to pull us back into eating the processed nonsense. All of those things can make it hard to stick with it. And that's exactly what the coaching program is built for. So my coaching plan that's linked below, you need to have a plan. And knowing what to do when it gets hard is exactly what keeps us on track. So the link to the coaching is in the description below. Now, what we've been looking at today is not a mystery. It's a system, right? A system designed to maximize profits with little to no regard for how the processed foodstuffs would impact our health. They don't care. They really don't. They want to make a profit. They want our money. And you know what? When they get our money for the food and our health deteriorates, we just get shuttled into another system because, the systems have different arms. And we'll be in the medical side of everything. So, the system profits every time we blame ourselves instead of looking at the system. What I want you to do is look at the system. And that's what we're doing right now, right? We're looking at it. We're examining it. We're understanding it. And that changes things because when we understand the system, we aren't fighting ourselves anymore. We're making a better decision. We're making decisions that benefit ourselves. We're making decisions that help us to see that our good actions that led to our body feeling better and our weight regulating is real. And then we keep making those decisions because we see that they benefit us. Now, if today was the day that something clicked for you, to stop blaming yourself and to start changing the environment, then the next video that you're going to want to watch is becoming the person who doesn't need the cookie. So I'm going to link that in the description below. And now I'm excited to hear what questions you guys have for me and how can I move this needle forward for you, and what can we do to I want to make this as easy for you guys as absolutely as possible. So let's see here. Russell Nicholson. Hello, how are you guys doing? How are you doing? Sorry. Nice to have you here. Do you have a question? I would love to answer your questions. And Pat says, good morning, Wellness Warriors. I'm happy to see that you were able to jump in for a little bit, Pat. Perfect. So let's see, Ian, no doubt about what you're saying, Violet. No problem. So, I mean, if that's all we have for today, that's terrific. But I see there's 26 of you in here. So I'm going to give it a little bit of time because I know that sometimes we're a little bit behind on the live stream. But I will say, and I want to add one little thing to this, which is that getting healthy and feeling amazing is the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. And it's 8 years later, and I'm still sitting here in front of you guys at goal weight. And well, I will say I'm even a little bit below goal weight because I'm like 5 pounds-ish less than the goal I had for myself when I started my keto journey. And I'm going to say had for myself. The goal was not there at the very beginning. The only goal I had when I started keto was to heal my hip pain. So going back to every single medical something that they tell us is like, oh, we have different disciplines in the medical world because we have all these different health problems. And yet somehow, interestingly, so my joint pain and my skin rashes and my tinnitus and my stomach issues like gurgling, and I mean, luckily I did not have IBS or anything like that, but bloating, gas, etc. Like the number of things, and I have a long list. If I pull up the document, I can give you all of them. But the number of different issues that got regulated by me changing the one thing, which is what I was eating, I will say, Wellness Warrior, to me was the biggest aha that let me understand these are not different scenarios. They're all coming from the same thing. All I did was change the food I was eating. But at the same time, what I did was change the food that I was eating. That is huge. The food we eat is the basis of everything. It is. So ultimately, by changing one thing, I was able to get my entire life back. I was able to be in the position that I'm now sitting here in front of you, feeling amazing. And I do more now so I used to have to take a break of like a day or two after my, like if I would do something fun with my daughter, take her to the water park or take her to the trampoline place or take her tree climbing, even take her cycling. So just riding my bike would make my knees hurt that the next day I had to take a break between. So like just normal, natural, simple things that we want to be able to do with our kids. I would have to take a break. Now I can work out today, and on the same day I can work out, go longboarding or whatever, do whatever activity. Like I don't take breaks anymore. I could just keep going and going and going and like. So to me, that's amazing. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm more than excited about it. And I really encourage everyone that take your health into your own hands. Work with your doctor, obviously, but like be part of the process. Work together with your doctor rather than giving it over to the doctor as if there's nothing for you to do in that situation, because there always is something to do. So since I don't have any more questions, I want to say thank you very much to everyone who sat with me and listened to me talk through what happened or my ideas since Daniel's conversation. And I'll talk to you guys again next Monday. Have a good rest of your day, guys. Today's video is brought to you by my keto consultations. You know how to do keto, but you're having trouble just sticking with it? Book a consultation with me and we're going to get you back on track. The link is in the description.